This conference will now be recorded.
On the previous session, we have discussed how can we prepare the properties with the track decorator and the API decorator, and what exactly the track decorator indicates and what exactly the API decorator indicates, we have discussed. Now, and how can we invoke this components from the parent component? That means, how can we invoke the child component from parent component? We have discussed so that we can able to pass a value for the properties which we have inside our child component. That already told you whatever the properties that we have defined by using this track decorator is going to be making that property private, and the API decorator is making that property or function as public, so that we can access these public properties and public functions from the other parent components, also from any other component we can access. But whatever the properties that are defined with the track decorator, these can be accessible within the component only. These are private to that component, so which can't be accessible from the other components. Now, so now today we'll see, so how can we pass the values? How to pass the values from parent component to child component, we'll see. And then how can we assign the values? Okay, how can we assign the values, okay, to that particular properties from parent component? And then how can we invoke the methods available inside the child component from parent? We'll see practically over here. Now, let's see practically in this case. In yesterday's session, we have discussed how can we define our own component, and then how can we represent the values, what exactly track decorator indicates, and then what exactly reactive property and non-reactive properties we have discussed in the previous session. Now, let's see. Let me explain a small use case. How can we invoke the child component methods from parent component? And then we'll see today the wire decorator also. Okay, the third one, wire decorator also, we'll see practically today. So now let's see in this case. Now, So now let's see. I would like to define two components. First one is a parent component. Second one is a child component. In this child component, I would like to define a public property, and for that property, okay, I would like to assign some values over here, and that value we can able to represent, okay, on our parent component also. Okay, we can access that parent component as well. That facility is available. Now, so now here in this case, so now from the parent component, then how can we assign the value for that property? Okay, how can we assign that value? So now let's see practically in this case, how to pass a value from parent to child. Okay, we'll see practically over here now. And then I will show you how can we define the methods inside the child component, and then how can we invoke those methods, okay, from parent component. Suppose if the method is having any parameters, then how can we pass a value from parent component? Okay, we'll see practically today. Now let's see that practically use case here. Now, first of all, let me show you. So now here in this case, in the previous session, what we did, just we have prepared, okay, a component, child component. In this child component, we have defined this three properties. So one is, okay, track decorator, that is private property. Second one public, third one is also private property. And then how to assign the values for this particular properties, okay, we have discussed, okay, from that button control. And how to pass the values, okay, from parent component we have discussed. But how we have assigned the values, these values, okay, we have assigned inside that parent component hard coded. Okay, upon invoking that child component itself from parent, we have assigned this value. So now here today we'll see how to assign the value for this child component properties from parent component through JavaScript. Through JavaScript. Okay, through JavaScript, how can we do that here? Okay, now let's see practically in this case. Now, let me show you. Now, so now here in this case, how can I will do that here? That means my requirement is whenever an event is getting occurred, that means whenever once you click on a button control on the parent component, I want to assign some value to that child. Like for example, assume that. Now, for example, I have two components are available. This is the first component that we have, which is a parent, and this is the second component, that is a child. We have two components, parent and child. This is a child component. In this child component, okay, we have a property at the rate API, because in order to define that property, we have to use at the rate API. That means API decorator, which will be making that property or the variable as public, so that we can access this property or variable from parent or from any other component also, so that we can pass the values. Now I'm defining that customer thing. Here I'm hard coding some value. Okay, here I'm hard coding some value. So now here I'm indicating some Ram Kumar. Okay, so this is a value here. Now, once a property has been defined with the respective value, this is a hard coded value that I have given here. Now my requirement is in this particular parent component, okay, I have a button control. I have a button control. There is a button control, okay, with the name now set value. Set value. So now as soon as once I click on this set value button component, inside my parent component, it will be having a method. Okay, it will be having a method. It will be having a method like as, okay, so handle and click. Okay, handle and click. Now here what I want to do, I want to assign a value for this property here. Okay, customer name. So now here write the code. Write the code to set the value for the child component property. How to assign the value through JavaScript. Previously we have hard coded. So as soon as once you click on this button control, immediately the button control is going to be invoking this method. The method is going to be setting a value to my child component property. It has to assign the value. Then how can we assign that value? We can able to represent, okay, on my parent component. But the variable or the property is not from a parent. That property is there in child. I want to assign the value to that child component from parent through JavaScript. So then how can we do that? Okay, now let's see practically. That means what? Whenever an event is occurred in the parent component, when you click on a button control, whenever an event is occurred, then immediately I would like to change the value of the child component. That means I would like to pass some value from parent component to the child component with the help of JavaScript. Then how can we do that? Okay, now let's see practically in this case. Now, let me explain. Let me explain the component here. Let me give the node point. Now, here I'm indicating communication between components. Now, by using this approach, we can define the properties and functions within the child component, and we can assign the values to the child component properties from parent component. Parent component upon click on a button. Upon click on a button in parent component. Then how can we do that? Okay, now let's see practically. So first of all, let me define a child component, and then I will define a parent component over here. Then once the child component is ready, then how can we represent that value? Okay, I will show you practically over here. And then how can we assign the value for this child component parameter through the JavaScript of a parent component? We'll see practically. Now, let's see. Let me go to my VS Code. Let me define a Lightning Web component. Now, here I'm indicating this. Create a Lightning Web component. So now here I'm going to be indicating property child component. I would like to go with the default directory. So now property child component. So now here in this case, I'm defining a property. So which is a public property, so that I can access this property from parent component, and then I can assign some value, and I can change that value dynamically at runtime as well upon click on button controls inside my parent component. So now let me define a property here. At the rate I'm indicating API. I'm using this API decorator to make this property public that can be accessible from parent component as well. So now I'm indicating that property name here. Now I would like to indicate, so now I'm indicating that child property. This is the property name which I'm giving. By default, I'm giving some value over here. Now I'm indicating child component property. So now here I'm defining this property here. This is a API decorator property. So now which is with the name child property here, I have given that value child component property. Now here whenever we are using this API decorator, then we have to import this API decorator also. So that here lightning element comma API. Okay, now that I'm going to be using this API decorator as well. So now this is the property, just a variable I have defined. That's it. Okay, just I have defined a variable here. Now, so now here in this case, how can we do that? Now I want to show this value on my component. Just let me go to that HTML. On this HTML, I would like to represent this value on a lightning card. I'm using this lightning card. Here I'm indicating title equals to child component property. I'm indicating this icon name, standard account. Here I would like to represent child component property value. I'm indicating this property name, child property, representing this. Connection timed out. Let me save it now. It has run successfully. Now save this. Now done. So now my child component is ready. Now let me show you that. Just I would like to show that value. So now I would like to call this one property child component. Component property child component. Okay, just I'm running this one. Okay, in order to show. So now here I'm going to be representing this. Now let me save this. It's taking time to put. I will do one thing. Directly, I will go to the scratch. I will push it over here. Go to that default arc. I will go to the developer console now. Here I'm indicating component property child component. Okay. Now I'm directly updating here itself. Click on preview. Let's see the result. Now it is indicating child component property. So I'm able to show that this is the card control. On this lightning card, I'm having this title, and then it is indicating child component property value is this is a property value. Okay, child component property. Okay, fine. Now, how can we pass this value? Okay, from parent component here. So now I would like to create one more component. I would like to create a parent component here. Then how can we create this parent component? Okay, now let's see. Let me create one more component name. Component, I would like to call this. Okay, I would like to invoke this. How? Upon click on a button control. So now here in this case, what needs to be done? Okay, what needs to be done? So now from the parent component, if you want to assign the value, then what needs to be done? We have hard coded. Okay, we have hard coded values. How can we do that? Now let me show you. How to hard code the value? Just to go to that, okay, property parent component. Here we can able to invoke that component here. C hyphen, because we have to use kebab case that already we know, yesterday we have discussed. Now what is my component name? Property child component here. So that we have to specify property child component. Okay, property child component. And then here we can specify here. What is the parameter name here? So inside this, we have prepared a parameter name that is child property. So now we have to specify child hyphen property. And then here we can specify the value. Whatever the value that you want, we can able to assign. So that if I'm assigning this value, like as here, we can assign the value now parent property value here. Okay, parent property value. Just you can specify this. Now here we are hard coding this. Okay, here we are hard coding this. That means from the parent, I'm assigning the value to this particular child component property. So this is the child property. This is the property name. Actual property name is a child, okay, property. But this property we are accessing from parent, so that we have to follow kebab case. Yesterday I have discussed what exactly the kebab case format and how to use that. Yesterday I have given that note point also regarding kebab case over here. Now, so we have to reference like this here. Already we have discussed in yesterday's session. So now we can assign the value here. Now I would like to run this component now. So now let me save this. Now I would like to invoke this. So now here I'm indicating property parent component. Property parent component. Now let's save this. From parent component, I'm invoking child component. Now let's run this. Previously it will be having child component property. Now let's run this component. Now it is indicating parent property value. That means automatically the parent value has been assigned to that property over here. How? Hard-coded value. Now I don't want to hard code this value. As of now, what we did, upon invoking this a child component itself, we have assigned some value for that child component property. This is the child component name, and in for this particular component, we have a property called as child property, which is a public property because it has been defined as @API decorator. So now this is a public property. So I'm accessing this public property with the name, okay, child hyphen property by using kebab case. And then here I'm assigning some value. But I don't want to assign this value over here hard coded. I want to assign through JavaScript. How? Just to go to that. Now let me go to my, okay, parent component JavaScript. Here I would like to assign that. I'm defining a web property here. I'm defining a variable at the rate track, which can be accessible within this component only. It's a track property. Track decorator is indicating this property can be accessible within the component. I'm assigning here. Now I would like to define a property, okay, with the name parent component value. Here I'm indicating that. I would like to specify that. Now I'm indicating value has been assigned from JavaScript. Okay, the value has been assigned from JavaScript here. Now, so now here I'm going to be indicating. So I'm using the track decorator so that we have to import it. Track decorator. That means what? Instead of hard coding that value in the parent component, I'm defining a property inside this JavaScript of the parent component, and then here I'm assigning this value. So now this value I want to pass where I want to pass this value to this a child property. So that here I don't want to hard code this. I'm going to be indicating like as a parameter. Just you can specify the parameter. That's it. That means what? So in this particular property, okay, in this particular property, whatever the value, parent component value. So now this is a value here. So now please assign this value for this particular child component property, that is child property here. That's it. Simple. Let me say. That means we are assigning from JavaScript. Through JavaScript, I'm assigning the value from parent to child. Let me save this component also. Now fine. So now let's do this. Refresh this user interface. Now it will assign that value, okay, from the parent component here. Now it is indicating value has been assigned from JavaScript. So the property is child component property. But for this property, this value is coming from where? This is coming from parent component over here through JavaScript. Okay, this is how we can assign. Suppose for example here. Now, suppose for example, on this parent component, if you have any button control, okay, if you have any button control, upon click on the button control, if you want to assign this value, then how can we do that? Now let's see. I'm preparing a div tag. Here I'm indicating a button control. Lightning button. I'm indicating the label. Label equals to set new value. Okay, set new value. I'm indicating this brand. Okay, brand equals to, sorry, I'm indicating the variant. Variant equals to brand. So now upon click on this button control, on click equals to, I would like to invoke a method here. So now I'm indicating handle on click. Handle on click. So now here I'm preparing a method here. I'm preparing a method. So now here in this method, I would like to assign some value for this property. So that means what? As soon as once I click on this button control, okay, from my parent component, now this button will be invoking this particular method. Now in this method for this variable, I would like to assign the value. So that I'm assigning this dot parent component value equals to, I'm assigning that value has been, I'm giving that message. Value has been assigned from button click. Button click. I'm giving some message. That means upon click on the button control, I would like to assign some value over here. Now, I'm not hard coding this one. Dynamically at runtime, upon click on the button control, also we can assign some value for your child component. That means parent to child we are controlling. Now, let me save this code. Save this a parent component also, HTML. Now, done. So let's refresh your application. So now here the value has been assigned from JavaScript from parent here. Now when I click on this set new value, it will assign that value here. It will assign that value for this child component. When I click on set new value, it is indicating value has been assigned from button click. That means what, as now let me place this code. I'm indicating this. Now let me place this child component code. Parent component code. I'm indicating JavaScript file, HTML file. Here also JavaScript file, HTML file. Let me place this child component JavaScript and the HTML. Parent component. parent component JavaScript code. Okay, so that by using this parent component controls, we can assign the values to the child component properties also. Now, up to this is fine. Suppose, as of now here, what we did, a child component, we have a property. For this property, we have assigned some value. Suppose if the child component contains some methods, some functions, how to call this a child component function from parent component? What we can do? Okay, what we can do in this case here? Suppose, for example, I'm having some methods are available inside my child component, like which is the public methods. So at the rate API, I'm having a method that is called as some show custom message. Show custom message. Okay, show custom message. It will be showing some message here. I'm writing some business logic. I will write the business logic here. Sometimes it is having some parameter at the rate API that it's a public method. So now show customer details. There is a method which is having some parameters also. I'm indicating customer name. Okay, customer name parameter. So here I'm writing some business logic. So which is having some business logic over here. Then how can we invoke this method from parent component here? If it is a property we have assigned, fine. Then how to call this a child component methods from parent component? So whatever the public methods are available, public methods we can able to call from parent component also. Then how can we do this one here? Okay, how can we do this one? Okay, now let's see practically. Whenever if you want to invoke this child component methods from the parent component, we have to use a method called as template.querySelector. Template.querySelector. Now, then what needs to be done over here? Now let me explain. For example, let me copy this. Let me explain. Okay, with the note point here. Now, so in this case here, what needs to be done? Suppose, for example, I have child component. So there is a child component. In this child component, I'm having some methods are available. Like at the rate API, I'm having this method name. Okay, we can specify the method. First of all, I will show you first method. Here it is having some business logic. Now this is the child component. Suppose if you want to invoke this method from the parent component, then what we can do? Parent component. What needs to be done? In this parent component, first of all, we have to define a variable which can able to invoke this component. Assume that this component name is, here I'm indicating this component name. My component name is method child component. Now this is the component name, file name. Okay, method child component. So now this is the component name which I have right now. Here I'm having this one more component that is method parent component. These are the names of my components, Lightning Web components. So now method parent component. Now So now here in this case, what needs to be done? First of all, we have to invoke this component here. Then how can we invoke this component here? Okay, now let's see. Inside the parent component, we have to invoke child component. So that what we can do is we have to specify, define a variable here. Variable name equals to this dot template dot query selector. Query selector. Here we have to specify the child component name. What is the child component name? C hyphen method hyphen child hyphen component. That means like as a kebab case, same. Okay. Generally, how we are invoking this child component from parent, this is the format here. We are using that. Okay. C hyphen method hyphen child hyphen component. So that this is the component name. So please query. Okay, please query this particular component. Now in this component here, there are some methods are available which I would like to invoke. Then how can we invoke that method? Okay, now we can specify here. Now, if you want to invoke that method, just you can specify our variable name. Variable name dot method name. Okay, variable name dot method name. That's it. This is the syntax we used to follow. Okay, this is the syntax we used to follow. Now, in this case here, let me explain one simple process, one simple example. Assume that here I'm having a method. At the rate API now show sample message. Okay, show custom notification or custom message, whatever, anything. Show custom message. So now this is the function. Here I'm going to representing some alert message. Alert message. Now, no parameters method. Fired. Okay, I'm indicating some message. No parameters method fired. Now, so I want to call this a method, okay, from my parent component. Then how can we do that? Now let me explain. Here define that variable. Where I'm invoking this, specify the variable name here. Custom message, anything, any variable name equals to this dot template dot query selector. Query selector, and then query selector is going to be executing, invoking this component here. Now here in this component, what we have, what is the component name? C dot C hyphen method hyphen child component. Whatever the child component name is available, specify the child component name. Then invoke it. How can we specify? Custom message dot, what is the method name? Show custom message. That's it. Okay, this is the way we are going to be invoking the methods from the parent to child. So whatever the child component methods are available, public methods, not private methods. Okay, track decorated methods cannot be invocable from parent component because those are local to the methods, so which we can't access. Those are local to that component. So in this case, whatever the public methods that we have, those methods we can invocable from the parent as well. Now, so now this is a simple method, okay, which we are invoking from child to parent. So now suppose, for example, if we have that method in child component which is having some parameter, then how can we pass a parameter for this particular method over here? Okay, now let's see. Now, let me give you the syntax here. This is one case. Okay, this is one case. Let me explain the second case here. Suppose, for example, I have a method. Inside the child component, I have a method which is a parameterized method, like at the rate API method name, which is having some parameters. Write the business logic. Then suppose if you have any method which is having some parameters, then how can we invoke this? how to invoke these kind of methods, okay, from your parent component. Now, how to pass the values for these parameters? Now let's see. In this case here also, we have to follow the similar kind of approach, but just one additional thing to pass the parameters. That's it, nothing else. Now, here we have to define var, define a variable name equals to this dot template dot query selector. This is to invoke JavaScript method, not your Apex class methods here. Okay. Now JavaScript methods. How to invoke Apex class methods, we'll see. For that one, we have to use while decorator. Now here I'm indicating component name over here, so that we have to specify C method child component. I'm giving the child component name over here, and then prepare the parameters. Now we have to specify the parameters. Where params equals to, we can specify the parameter name. So now the parameter name colon value. Second parameter here, parameter name 2 colon value. Like that, here we can able to pass the parameters. Once the parameters are ready, then we can invoke. Then how can we do that? We can specify variable name dot method name. Here we can pass these parameters. That's it. Okay. Here we can pass these parameters. So now we have to prepare these parameters over here first, and then that parameters we need to supply. That's it. Simple concept. Now, like for example, here I'm indicating this. Let me explain the process. Okay, with an example. I'm having a method. Okay, at the rate, I'm indicating API. Now show employee name. It is having parameters. Okay, EMP name parameters. We can give any parameter name over here. So now here I would like to, okay, assign this, perform some operations like as alert. Here we can specify employee full name is. Now this is a variable. In this variable, it can store any type of values also. Array type also, any type of values it can store. So in this case, once this parameter is available here, this parameter EMP name parameters. So now this can store multiple parameters also. Okay, because it may be array also, it may be collection also, whatever, it will accept everything, maybe single value also. So now in this case, we can specify EMP name parameters dot, okay, first name. I will pass two parameters here, and then I'm giving a space. I would like to specify EMP name parameter start last name. So that these are the two values here, which I'm going to add. So now here I'm going to be adding these two parameters here. I would like to represent this value. Now, so now here in this case, okay, these are the two parameters here, which it will be collecting the values and it is going to be representing the value on this particular component by using alertness here. Then how can we invoke this? Now, let's see practically from the parent component, how can we do this? So now here we can able to use this functionality where I'm indicating this variable name, okay, that is called as employee details or employee name. You can give anything. Employee details equals to this dot template dot query selector. We can specify that component name, C method child component, and then prepare the parameters. So now here I'm indicating this where parameters equals to, we can specify that. I'm indicating first name parameter. I'm indicating some RAM, comma, last name parameter. I'm indicating is Kumar. And then we can pass these parameters upon invoking the method. Employee details start. What is the method name? Show employee name. Here we can pass the parameters. Params. That's it. Over. This is how we need to invoke that. Suppose if it is a method which is of non-parameterized, and then this is the approach we have to follow. Directly we can invoke that. If it is a non-parameterized method, this is the way we need to pass a value for each and every parameter over here. These are the two approaches are available as part of Lightning Web Components. So now we can invoke, okay, the child component methods from parent component also. If the method is of type a non-parameterized, this is the first approach we have to follow. And if it is a parameterized method, we have to follow this approach here. Now, here I'm indicating this clear indication to you, non-parameterized method. Now, this is for non-parameterized method. This is for parameterized method. This is for the parameterized method. So now this is the way we used to follow in Lightning Web Components. We have to define the methods first, and then we can invoke them, okay, from parent component. Now, let's see how can we implement this. So as of now, we have child components are available. In this child component here, I'm preparing, okay, two methods over here. So now show custom message, and then here it will be displaying that message over here. I'm using some alert message. Now here I'm indicating child component non-parameterized method find. Okay, I'm giving some message here. I'm invoking some method. So now here, let me show you practically here how can we invoke this up to this one. Now let me save this. Now I have saved this component. Now let's see how can we invoke this method here. So now show custom message. Now let's go to the parent component. In this parent component, I would like to place a button control. I'm using a div tag, lightning button, label equals to show custom message. Now here I'm indicating variant. Variant equals to brand and onclick. Onclick equals to, I would like to specify the method. I'm indicating this method. Now I would like to indicate, okay, call custom message method, or simply I'm indicating now call custom message. Now this is the method. So let me write this piece of code inside the parent component. Here I'm going to preparing this method call custom message. So now here we have to use that method query selector, where I would like to indicate invoke custom message equals to this dot template dot query selector. What is the component where exactly this particular method is available? This is available inside this child component. What is this child component name? Property child component. So that we can specify C hyphen property hyphen child hyphen component. That's it. Now property child component, and then we can invoke it. How can we invoke? So now invoke custom message dot. What is the method name? So now here we have a method. Okay, what is this method? Show custom message. That's it. Over. So upon click on that button control, it is going to be invoking this method. The method is going to be invoking this, okay, show custom message method, which is available inside my component. Okay, see property child component. That means this is a component child component, and so that here I'm invoking this. Let me save this code. Let's save this HTML part as well. I'm giving a break tag. Now done. Let's see. Let's run this component now. Refresh this. Now here I'm placing this button control show custom message. When I click on this, it is indicating this, okay, the message in the alert message, alert box, okay, child component non-parameter method fired. It is indicating that message. By using an alert box, I'm able to show this message. So that not only invoking the methods available in the same component, we can invoke that methods available in child component also from parent. Now, so now this is non-parameterized. Okay, how can we implement the parameterized here? Now let's see. Go to that child component here. I'm preparing one more method which is having some custom name parameters here, customer name parameters. I would like to indicate a alert message. I'm indicating customer name as I would like to specify. Now I would like to indicate that particular method name over here. Now that means the property name. Then how can we specify that property name over here? I'm indicating customer name parameter dot first name plus I'm giving a space, and then here I'm indicating that customer name parameters dot last name. So inside this parameter here, whatever the parameters are available, we would like to specify. Now let's see. Let me save this child component. Now in the parent component, I would like to call this method. Now so that I will place one more button control here. Like the similar fashion, I am going to be preparing this one more button control by giving a break tag over here. Now, so now here I'm indicating what is that method here, show customer details. So I'm indicating this show customer details. show customer details. I'm preparing a method show customer details method or call customer details. This is a method which I would like to prepare. Now call customer details. Now here also I would like to where invoke customer details equals to this dot template dot query selector, specify the component name. With the same component I'm indicating. Now I would like to prepare the parameters. So now where parameters here, params equals to, I'm indicating this. So now the first name, I'm indicating this value, some Ashok, last name, I'm indicating some Kumar. So these are the two parameters. I would like to pass this so that we can specify invoke customer details dot. I would like to specify the method. My method name is show customer details. Here we can pass it parameters. That's it, simple. So if the method requires any parameters, then we have to pass the parameters to the method as well from parent component. So in this case, what happened? As soon as once I click on this button control, it will call this method call customer details. This method is going to be invoking this child component. In this component, this particular show customer details method will be getting invoked, but it is expecting some parameters. So we are ready with this parameter values here. These values are going to be supplying over here in this case. These values are going to be supplying in this place over here. Now, so in this case, this is how we are going to be implementing this. Let me save this component. Save this child component also. Save this parent component controls. Now let's run this component. Refresh this. Now we have a method called as show customer details and method button control is available. So click on this. Now it will show the message customer name is, it is indicating Ashok Kumar. So whatever the two parameters I'm passing from parent, now these two parameter values are passing to my child method. The method is going to be collecting both the values, first name value and the last name value. Based on that, it is preparing that name, and that name will be visible to the people in the form of a alert message. This is how we can invoke that methods from parent. So we can invoke the child component methods also. Not only accessing child component properties, we can access child component methods also. And then upon invoking that, if that child component is a non-parameterized method, directly we can invoke. If it is a parameterized, then we have to supply the parameter values. Okay, this is the way. Okay, we are going to be using this functionality to invoke that. Now, let me do that. Invoking child component methods from parent component. By using Lightning Web Components, we can invoke the child component methods from parent component. If the method contains any parameters, then we have to supply the parameter values from parent to child component. Parent to child component. We have to pass that value from child parent component to child component. Now, steps. Step 1. So which should be in child component? Define the required methods in child component. Child component, for example, with @API decorator. If you're not specifying @API, we can't invoke from parent. Okay, we can't invoke from parent because these are private. Okay, these are private. So that private methods can't be invocable from the parent component. That is the problem. Now, so in this case, I'm defining @API, and then we can specify the method name. We can define and we can write the logic. @API, method name, and some parameters. Write the business logic. This is the step 1. As a step 1, define the required methods in child component with API decorator. Next, as a step 2, invoke the child component methods from parent component. Parent component by using below steps. As a step 1, query the component details by using query selector method. For example, I'm indicating where we can specify the variable name equals to this dot template dot query selector. Here we can specify the component name. C hyphen child hyphen component. And then we can specify here, invoke it. Directly we can specify variable name dot, okay, child component method name. That's it. This is one way. Second one, here I'm indicating. This is with the second step. Invoke the method. Invoke the method. Now, in this one 2.1, if the method contains any parameters, then we have to define the parameters here. Variable params equals to, we can specify parameter 1, give that to value 1. Parameter 2, the value 2. Like that. and then we can indicate that variable name dot child component method name. Here we can able to pass the params. That's it. This is a way. Now, if it is a property, directly we can access. If it is a method, then we have to follow these steps. Now, let me place that code. How can we invoke the child component methods and properties from parent component? Now, use case. Define two Lightning Web components to invoke the child component methods from parent component. Now I'm indicating that code. The child component code is a JavaScript code and the HTML code. Here we will be having this parent component. Now let me place this code. Child component HTML. Parent component HTML. So this is a way we are invoking this JavaScript functionalities from parent to child to parent. We can invoke it. Suppose sometimes you can raise a question, sir, if you want to invoke from parent to child, that means parent component methods I would like to invoke in child component. At that time, we have to use custom events. Okay, we have to prepare our own custom events. Then how can we prepare that custom events? We'll see in the further sessions. How to prepare events, how to prepare that custom events, and through the custom events, how can we invoke? We'll see practically that concept as well. And then, so as of now, we have invoked JavaScript methods from one component to another component. Both are JavaScript methods only. So we have invoked the child component JavaScript method from parent component here. Now, suppose how to invoke server calls. Okay, how to invoke server calls. That means I would like to connect to my Salesforce object. I would like to fetch some records from the table, and those records I want to represent on my Lightning component. Then how can we invoke server calls? We'll see in next session. Next session, I'm going to discuss about server calls, how to invoke Apex class methods. We'll see how to represent them on tabular format on the Lightning component. We'll see that. And upon invoking the server calls, we have two ways are available. First one by using while decorator, while decorator, which will be executing that component, executing that code upon loading the component itself, like as init, init method. So when I go to the Tara handler, we have discussed about that init method, Tara handler init method. Like the similar way, upon loading that component, if you want to perform some SQL queries, if you want to fetch some data, if you want to call some server calls, then we can go with that while decorator. Sometimes You can raise a question, sir, I don't want to execute that queries, I don't want to execute that methods upon loading component. When I click on the button control, I want to do that. For that one, we have one more mechanism that is called as imperative method. Imperative. So now through imperative methods, we can able to invoke that server calls, server methods, that means suffix class methods from Lightning Web Component. These are the two ways are available: by using while decorator, by using imperatively. Imperatively. Imperatively will be used upon invoking the button. When I click on the button control on the component, I would like to do, like for example, when I click on this search button, I want to search the data. Not all the cases. In some cases, whenever the component is loading, I want to fetch all the records from the table. I want to represent in tabular format. So in this case, how can we do that? We'll see in the next session. Don't miss that part. That is very, very important. After that, we'll see the concept of Lightning data services and then events components as well. How can we do that? We'll see practically. Okay. So do the practice on this one. It will be looking like as a bit confusing also, but please do practice here. Okay. Go with the step by step. I have given the notes also, step by step approach also. Do the practice on this one so that implementing that server calls will be very, very easy for you. If you know this process, then invoking server calls will be very, very easy for you. What are the steps are available to invoke by using while decorator, and what are the steps are available to implement through imperative methods? I will show you practically in next Saturday's session. Both the mechanisms we'll see. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.